Do you understand this?
Well, yes, I grew up in the Methodist Church in New York State. I understand Jesus very well. And I have worked my entire life to get a doctorate, and I still have hundreds of thousands of dollars of student loan debt. So, whether God thinks I'm innocent or righteous doesn't really matter to me. Back in 2015, I was working at a camp for individuals with special needs up in New York State. It's called Camp Huntington. It's a really, really great camp. But there was a camper who was a nonverbal autistic individual, and he was never given the language that he needed to communicate when he was a kid. So he would get very angry sometimes and agitated and then start swinging at people. And I was trained to respond to the troubled behaviors, right? And we were taught to kind of surround him in a circle and keep him away from the other campers to keep everybody safe. Sorry. Come here, Harnett. I ended up getting backed up against the camp office wall, and he punched me in the head 8 times. And that was 2 weeks before I started my doctorate program at Gallaudet University in Washington, D.C. And I still got my doctorate in the 4 years. So not many people can say that. Not many people can say that they got pretty much beaten to the point of death by a Nazi and still got their college doctorate. So, yeah. And then after I relocated down here to Tennessee to be near my family, because my brother was getting his PhD at UT in English literature, and I was working at a private practice here, and then I was working at the Children's Hospital the past couple of years. But this past year, I was going through a lot of mental health things for a lot of different reasons, and I've been in another hospital and things like that, and I just honestly have not been treated with the respect that, you know, anybody really should be treated with, but like just people have made assumptions, and I'm just trying to survive just like everybody else is, you know? My first introduction to death was when I was 9 months old. My grandfather, on my mom's side, he was the chief of police in Ramsey, New Jersey. He passed away from non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. So like that was, I don't really remember him very much, but that was my first experience, right? And then when I was 2 years old, my best friend Michelle Mejias, a Filipina Puerto Rican, died from SIDS. And then when I was in middle school, my Armenian grandmother, Alice Arpin Terlamesian Pazapi, died in 2006. And then my Irish, English something grandmother, Patricia Carrick Smith, passed away in 2008. And then my Italian grandfather, who was a Korean War veteran in the Air Force, passed away when I was in college in 2013. So my life has been surrounded by death.
Nicole, what are your thoughts on the afterlife?
I believe that there is an afterlife.
Do you believe there's a heaven?
Yes.
Do you believe there's a hell?
Essentially.
If there was a heaven, Nicole, would you consider yourself good enough to go there?
Most definitely. I do. I definitely do.
If we were to take a look at the standard of righteousness, the Ten Commandments, whichever major religion in the world has some moral code, it would show us how good we are. If you've kept that standard 100%, you would be righteous. But if we break the commandments, then we have a debt. It becomes a judicial matter, and all debts to the law must be satisfied. Follow this thought experiment. Nicole, in your whole lifetime, have you ever told a lie?
Yes.
Like the rest of us?
Everyone does.
Have you ever stolen anything?
I mean, I have. But most people have at least once in their life.
I have. Have you ever dishonored or disobeyed your parents?
I mean, yes and no. But I'm an adult. I'm allowed to disobey my parents.
That was the particular commandment that came to me when I was a teenager that showed me how terrible of a kid that I was.
Right.
I treated my parents very disrespectfully. Have you ever murdered anyone?
No.
I didn't figure you had. But even if you call someone a fool out of anger, call someone a name, that's a murderous heart. It's the intents and motives of our heart. Nicole, the reason we die is the judge, the lawgiver, has given us the death penalty for breaking these commandments. Our death is proof of our guilt. So if we were to die as a result of transgressing against our conscience and those commandments, and then met God in judgment, and He judged us from the vantage point of righteousness, would you be innocent or guilty?
I'd be innocent.
Well, you told me you've broken those commandments, so that's...
I don't really give a shit, honestly. Because I think that there are a lot of people out here in the world who claim to be righteous, who do break the commandments all the time and still live under the guise of being righteous Christians and righteous whatever religion, yet they discriminate and harm people who just live differently than they do.
Sure. Now the scriptures say there is none righteous, no, not one, and for all have sinned and come short of the glory of God. That includes the Christians that you speak about.
Absolutely.
So we all have a debt. And debts must be satisfied. So if God is a judge and the commandments are the law, you and me would be the lawbreakers. Hell is God's prison, a place where justice is satisfied.
Which, as I said earlier, I believe that we are already in hell because this world is a...
However, if someone were to pay that penalty for you, the good judge can do what is right and let you go on Judgment Day and pardon your case. So where might you find a fine payer in God's courtroom, so to speak?
I think my life speaks for itself. But if God's stupid enough to not see that, then I hope I have a good lawyer.
Well, that's a good point you have. We need a lawyer. And there is a good lawyer or an advocate available to you. So here's what the Lord did for you, so you can be represented. He entered into His creation as a man, Jesus Christ, because God is a spirit. And He wrote a check for you in His blood. No matter what you've ever done, He paid it in full.
And I still have $100,000 in student loan debt.
And He died up there to pay for your sin, was buried and rose again from the dead, and He's alive right now according to the scriptures. And if you'll transfer your trust from yourself to the Savior, all that call upon the name of the Lord shall be saved, as a free and gracious gift, not by any religion
Oh, thank you.
or any good works that you do. Do you understand this?
Well, yes, I grew up in the Methodist Church in New York State. I understand Jesus very well, and I have worked my entire life to get a doctorate, and I still have hundreds of thousands of dollars of student loan debt. So, whether God thinks I'm innocent or righteous doesn't really matter to me. Because I have lived my life in a righteous way, and I still have not been given respect as a person, as a human being, as a doctor. And that is not okay.